What we're about to do now is a demonstration of the Dyad meditation process. And I will initially describe part of it, and Richard and Jill will demonstrate one aspect of it. So I'll just name some of the features, is that it's a 40-minute process, and the roles will alternate every 5 minutes. One person will ask the person a question, an inquiry question, and for 5 minutes, that person will simply be present, offering a witnessing presence, complete silence, not saying anything, but giving the person their complete and undivided attention, making eye contact. And while that's taking place, the person who's receiving the question will take it as an inquiry and an invitation to enter into their experience. And for 5 minutes, they will connect to the inner experience and then articulate or share what is alive in them. A bell will ring, and then at that point, we switch roles. You can thank your partner, and then the person who was speaking will be the one who asks the question. I'll go into what the question is. So that is 5 minutes and then 5 minutes. That's what I call one round, and then we have it so that there's 4 rounds or 8 turns in total. Each person gets 4 turns. The question is, I'll go more into this when we set up your practice in pairs, but the inquiry question is, tell me how, in this case, trust lives in you. There's a particular need, quality that is asked in this inquiry. Tell me how trust lives in you. Notice that the question is, first, is that connect to the quality of trust. When you're in the energy of it, in the experience of it, how does it live in you? So it's an embodied experience. It's a full experience, including the physicality, the emotions, and the other area of the sense of the understanding of how does trust live in me. Okay. And so I'll just go with that, and we'll have the demonstration begin. So Jill, you'll begin by asking Richard the question, and Richard will demonstrate it. I'll stop it after a few minutes so you just get a sense of it, and then we'll switch. So you can begin.
Okay. Tell me, how does trust live in you?
As soon as I allow myself to really try and touch that word or what that word contains, I just feel a sudden, like a relief. My body kind of drops a bit. It's as if I can suddenly say, yes. I can kind of let go, it's all right. And then almost immediately after that, there's it's not sad, it's like it's just almost like a welling up of tears. It's like I can let go, and actually, why have I been hanging on? There's a sudden realization of how much I want it. I can just trust that it'll be okay. And I don't have to try. And it doesn't matter. It's not that it doesn't matter, but I can live with whatever comes. And there's this mixture of relief and this almost this sort of emotion of wondering why I don't trust. And as I say that, what comes to me is how closely it's about acceptance, really. That if I can just accept what is, then I have that same lowering feeling in my body. I can just say, it's okay, just accept what is. You don't have to do any more than that. You can trust that what is okay. and that I'm okay, that I can trust myself. As I say that, I get a kind of tingling actually in my body, the kind of, can I really do that? Can I really trust myself? Could I actually just drop all pretense and all anxiety and all acting and just trust myself? And then my body starts to tingle. There's almost something about, actually just in that moment that I said that, there was something very young and kind of very innocent which suddenly appeared and said, oh yes. And the tingling is stronger now as I say that. I can kind of feel it more. It's kind of almost like, yeah, go on, why not? The sort of little boyish kind of, I think as a little boy, you wouldn't ask the question, you just would do it. And that feels very, it feels very alive, it feels very vital. Yeah, I could just do it, it would be okay. And now actually that tingling again is stronger still. It's a very different feeling now. My body feels lighter now. And there's a kind of almost like a humour now. I can kind of, it's sort of slightly humorous, as a, or perhaps mischievous. It's a kind of, yeah, go on, go on. It's okay, you can just do it. You don't worry about it. And actually that's receding a little bit now, and there's something just about, even if I'm not a little boy, I can still trust that whatever I am is okay. There's something I can't quite name, which is it's like I'm not perfect, but I am, if you see what I mean. Everything which has happened to me in my whole life has been necessary to bring me to this point, and I can just trust that that was the way it was and is. That my life, my whole life, it's not this moment even. Just trust that's what has brought you to this point. And then I feel a kind of humility in front of life, a kind of trust in life itself in that moment. And I feel quite emotional saying that. Something very profound in that sense of actually shifting the sense of trust from myself to trusting in life itself. Mm.
Thank you.
So tell me, how does trust live in you?
When you say that, I can feel my feet touching the ground. And also just very aware of breathing in. And kind of my weight in the chair, something about the weight. And kind of rising as well. So it's kind of like the weight, trust, something about trust. There's something in the weight, but also something in the energy rising. So it kind of feels connected. It feels very, very centered here, like trust. And very strong and kind of freeing of collateral stuff. It feels when that's center, the other stuff kind of drops off. It's kind of relaxing, my shoulders relax. Kind of, again, something like almost weight dropping off or something. And again, there's this energy rising, kind of a happy feeling. And also kind of some kind of rest. It feels like some more rest than normal. It feels nice as well. It's just like clear and kind of just trust. It's not the normal debating that I go through. So it's just trust. It's not even just trust, but it's trusting is a more kind of relieving way to be. So I think it's just kind of a happy feeling. It's happy to feel trusting.
This is one round. Then we'll continue. What I'm going to ask you to do is for the second round. First round, each person focuses on trust. The second round, we'll write this up on the chart, on acceptance, each person. The third round on compassion, and the fourth round on presence. Okay. So that's the content of the inquiry. I just want to make some commentary on what you observed here. You'll notice that, first of all, the one who was the witness and offering presence was just offering this attentiveness without moving, without wavering, just fully present, without any need to say anything, and even without any sort of subtle agreement, disagreement, nodding of the head, a sort of smile that says, yes, I hear you. There's sometimes a very subtle kind of engagement that perhaps can actually interrupt or break the inquiry and the experience that is sort of the sovereign space of this individual being supported by a simple witnessing presence. And so just want you to notice that, and that's the intention. And then the person sharing, sensing just that the quality of the sharing was present. This is what's arising in me right now. This is the sense of this word contains some experience that is, whatever that is, this is what's coming up. This is what I'm experiencing. And the deeper meanings of the experience. The sensation, the quality of aliveness. That was, all of this were the full dynamic of what's being shared. So this is these are the characteristics that one is aiming to embody in this exercise. And it may be that while you're engaging in this process as a listener, it may be that you're not used to simply providing your full witnessing presence without saying anything. Perhaps a bit of discomfort comes up because the usual tendency is to want to respond, to say something. If that happens, you just notice that arises, and then do your best to continue simply attending to and listening and being as fully present to the person sharing. So thank you. This will be a time to hear any sharing from your experiences in the Dyad meditation process. So I'm eager to, curious, how did it go for you? What's up?
Well, I just realized from doing this exercise how desperately I need to learn this stuff. I have been touching on trust, but acceptance and compassion are the two that are just, I need desperately to learn. And that's why I'm here. That's what I want to learn almost more than anything else.
So the exercise allowed you to become aware of
Yes.
how much you want to touch into acceptance and compassion, how much you want to perhaps feel into it, experience it, embody it.
That's right, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm amazed about that space that's created in that with the other person. It's really for me like this relational space where the qualities can emerge, but it's not only within me, how I connect to the quality within me, but it's also how I connect to the quality, how it lives in that relational space. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed this, and I'm always very amazed how much I'm connected afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
I was, I wanted to share something because I was surprised by how playful and how receptive my body was in speaking those words to myself, and how magical it was to connect with that and just trusting that feedback from my body. Not sure exactly what it was telling me, but it was actually quite playful, and I found myself really enjoying playing with aspects of my experience that might naturally be ones I might be slightly aversion to, and I wanted to keep going. Actually, I was kind of like really enjoying that, and I so much valued the presence of the other person, and the almost unconditional presence, and it's almost I experienced the words that we were exploring from the other person. So the compassion, the presence, the trust, the acceptance in that. Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful.
I was amazed how often the other person spoke for me. Is it? And then it was very hard not to nod or to smile or to do something when they were speaking my experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a sense of their experience is your experience. You could swim in it together, so to speak.
Yeah, I just found it very moving to watch and observe my partner moving into these deep places in themselves and how they navigated that, and well, the self-compassion and the patience that they showed in their process, and it's quite humbling and beautiful to witness somebody's exploration of trying to reach their depths, and allowing me to witness that is really quite humbling and moving.
I enjoy hearing that.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Sense of when you share that, a sense of a different kind of relationship to another. You're being, you're witnessing, humbling, maybe even a sense of privilege of what's being offered to you. Yeah. Thank you. Is there a hand up over here?
Yeah, so I had very, very intense experience this time. Starting, I wouldn't say intellectually, but I closed my eyes, I was in myself, and then gradually going into the space between the two of us. And when it came to compassion, I couldn't speak, but it was so strongly going through me, the experience, the felt sense of compassion, going through my eyes. It's not really coming from me, but coming through me. And my eyes got a little wet, and I could see in the other person also. And it was a long time that I couldn't speak. And then coming to the presence, it was even stronger, living the presence in that moment with the other person. And it was like I couldn't tell what was me and what was the other person. There were no limits. And it was amazing when he said, my head is about to explode. And it was exactly what was going on in me. And something about tingling in the body was expressed. And it was, at this moment, the same thing was going on for me. So it was like a very strongly shared, humanity or just being together. And it wasn't really about me as a person or the other person. It was beyond that.
It was a non-personal experience, something larger.
Transcendent in a way. Yeah.
Beautiful. As you speak, the word that comes to me in the quality of your experience is a sacred space.
Yeah.
Very sacred. And just how beautiful that is, how awe-inspiring that is. Yeah. Great. Thank you for sharing that.
And I also so much valued the words you picked and the order. So, yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I experienced that I couldn't have one without the other. That once, and it went deeper. So once we got to presence, the others were entwined in it. I couldn't be present if I wasn't trusting and accepting and compassionate. And that was, I'd always thought of them as distinct previous to this. And for me, it turns out they're not.
Yeah. I love your experience of that. I so resonate with it, and I've heard many people share very similar. And so what that tells me is a sense of, maybe there's a sense of individual nuance, but they're interwoven as a fabric, perhaps, of our being. And you touch one and you feel another, and they're absolutely interconnected, these qualities. How could you possibly have compassion without acceptance? It's not illogical, but I so resonate with that experience. It's such a beautiful experience.
Yeah, there's something nice for me. It felt like there was a bit of a pressure off you giving the instruction, like about not kind of giving any facial expression or anything, like just a kind of subtle agreements that are maybe out there in society that, or I have some sense of that, of like maybe trying to save someone or something at particular moments, or expectations I put on myself of how I am supposed to respond or something. And so it was really nice just to, it helped me to be so much more present, just kind of not knowing they weren't expecting anything.
Yeah.
It's just,
I love that, yeah. A sense of, a sense of freedom, of any kind of subtle obligation we have to be a certain way. Just free to just be present. Is that kind of the sense of it? Thank you.
Well, before we started, we made like an agreement that it would be okay to be silent because 5 minutes was too long for us. And then it was amazing how we were running out of time and we had more to say. And like even with the first one with trust, there were so many flavors and nuances and essences that I was discovering just because the other person was providing me with that space to think and speak and, you know. And also the equality of having the 5 minutes and, you know, the sharing of the turns. There wasn't, it was just such beautiful, generous listening. I really enjoyed it. And there was such a sense of play and curiosity about what's happening next. Yeah, time flying by.
Beautiful, thank you.
Yeah, I'm rather in awe of that experience because my partner is somebody I don't know, and I'm just amazed at the beauty of the way in which she was going to places which were. I do find it very hard to find the words. I think I go back to your word sacred. There was something very lovely.
Yeah. Quite beautiful to be moved by that space.
By the time that we reached presence, it was unavoidable to have joy welling up from within both of us. And there was this brilliant moment when I thought, I can't stop this joy and I can't keep it from showing on my face. I can't keep my face still because there's this joy going woomph up inside me. And as this happened, my partner spoke about the immense joy that she felt. And so it wasn't her joy or my joy, it was our joy, it was the world joy, it was that very moving.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful, I love that. Yeah.
I've been sitting here struggling to find the words. I don't have many words, but what I have found is words to describe how I currently feel, and that is drunk with love.
No more words needed. Yeah. Yeah. Back there.
Yeah, the experience of this need words was really, really strong inside me, and what it came out for me was a really alive representation of this, which are still living in me in the open. I guess they were before, but now I'm fully aware of them, and it seems like I'm much more able to touch them and to even play with them or just look at them. And yeah, so I feel full and grateful.
Paul?
I'm not quite sure where this is coming from. I'm just aware that there's so much sort of beautiful experience that's been shared. And I know that, and that's been my experience, but sometimes in the past I've been in times when everyone else is expressing how wonderful it is. And then for some people it's actually not. It then becomes really difficult for someone to say, actually, I really had difficulty with that. So I'm just aware of that probably being somewhere in the field.
Yeah. It sounds like you want to acknowledge that in the presence of people expressing so much fullness, beauty, love, sacredness, that you're reaching out imagining. That might not be the case for some people.
Yeah, certainly from my experience in the past, I've ended up feeling very lonely.
Yeah.
So I want to sort of remember that for when I'm celebrating the wonderfulness, to have some compassion.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I hear that as from you, perhaps, an extension of awareness, of care, perhaps, of holding with care another's experience that may not be wonderful. There's some other quality to it. Perhaps a sensitivity to how that person may be feeling lonely, or because they have a different experience. And that's how I'm hearing what you're speaking to. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. That's enabled me to speak up. I've done this Dyad process many times and had some beautiful experiences, but today I'm just feeling very tired, and all I could really connect with through that process was a deep tiredness and a big stretch for me to be staying in the group. And I was kind of okay to be with the sadness of that and hearing everybody else's experiences, but somehow you naming that just gave me the possibility to kind of include my voice in the room, so thank you. And almost the tears that have been kind of close but not touchable feel closer, and that feels sweeter for it, so thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Penny. And I appreciate the opening that Paul's voice seemed to create a possibility, a permission, an opening for you to then speak to what you're speaking to. And then for me, what we're doing here is for me a living quality of compassion, and the quality that one of the most important aspects or qualities of compassion, whether it's lived within or between in a community, a group like this, is the message or the reality that of inclusion, of no matter what one is going through and experiencing, you are included. There's no better than, there's no preference for wonderful over not so wonderful. And that for me is the beauty of compassion. And that when someone experiences, as I was sensing you would experience in this, a sense of perhaps courage, perhaps moving through a difficulty in experiencing, reaching, and your willingness to express whatever you experience is something that I deeply appreciate. And I experience it actually as a gift that adds to the experience of the quality of compassion that exists within a group like this. So, appreciate it.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question actually about the tiredness, if that's, are you okay to have a question?
Yeah.
I notice, I mean, I don't know how many times I've come to spaces with you, and I notice that nearly always on the first and second day there's a deep wave of tiredness that hits me. until I settle into something else. And I don't know if that's like a tiredness that I'm carrying with me all the time without realizing it until I get here, or whether that this work is actually asking something of my mind to let go that it doesn't want to. So I don't know if you've got anything to say to just this awareness of this pattern, that this happens nearly every time, this deep tiredness that I hit first before the next bit comes.
Okay. What occurs to me is first the recognition, as I'm hearing. You're recognizing a pattern. And then a wondering, what is this? Is it part of my mind? Is it part of something else arising? And it's clear that you don't know. The understanding is not there yet. And so what that calls is for accepting the not knowing. It's here, you feel it, and you embrace it, be with it, allow it, without judging it. And perhaps even without allowing the mind needing to understand as diminishing the actual experience. It is what it is, the sensation of tiredness. And even then, even though it's not understood, can you then be with it, welcome it, even with the grief that comes along with it. That for me is what, for me, this practice is about, calls me to do. I can see in myself sometimes experiences that I don't understand. My mind says, what's going on? I don't get this. And because it is such a pervasive part of the mind that tries to understand experience, I'm learning more and more, so it almost has no effect on me, on the quality of my experience. I just listen to that part of the mind because there's a kind of an insecurity that it touches, a kind of an unwillingness to surrender into this unqualified vulnerability that doesn't understand, that I don't know. Can I allow myself to not know? Can I allow myself to surrender into the full felt feeling, perhaps, of tiredness or whatever, and not understand it? So that for me is my own inquiry, my own call for that. That's what resonates with me as I'm hearing you share and ask the question. How is that for you to hear that?
Yeah, some relief to imagine letting go of that knowing.
Yeah.
And the tiredness lives in me at the moment as a kind of tension across my forehead and in my eyes.
Yeah.
And so there's just then a kind of presence to the tension and allowing, which brings some relief.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I invite continued sharing of this experience, but also want to acknowledge the closing of the day and to invite an acknowledgement and an honoring of our time together, and ask for anyone who cares to share, reflecting on the day, what's alive in you now. Are there any gratitudes or appreciations that you'd like to share? Any experiences of mourning? Anything else that's alive in you? Paul?
Just an enormous gratitude for having joined something. It's very lovely. And yeah, something very profound.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to express my gratitude also, but I also want to say that I felt extremely challenged, and it requires a tremendous amount of stamina to develop some of these qualities. So, yeah, it's been a stretch as well.
Yeah.
I guess each time I spend time with you, Robert, I seem to drop more deeply, quicker. And I guess I feel quite overwhelmed right now. And what does that mean? Just full swimming with, just a lot of emotion, a lot of thoughts, feelings. Not trying to make sense of it, just being present to it, and grateful that you bring these spaces in which I can do that and share it with others too. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
What's gonna stay for me from today is that distinction you shared today around longing and seeking. And for me, there's an image that came up. It's almost like a dance. And I can see myself losing or not dancing when I'm too much in the seeking. But without the seeking, there's no dance either. So there's a kind of, or not maybe the flowing of what I want to create. So that's been really something precious. And it's also an inquiry of how can I stay connected to this energy that wants to create something in a flow that is enjoyable and alive. So, yeah, I'll take this as an inquiry with me.
Great.
I'd like to acknowledge the healing quality of the Dyad, in that I've struggled most of today. I haven't enjoyed the disruption, the technology, the layout, the lack of connection as a result of you being there and us being here. And that's all been washed away by the final process, and it's a lovely way to finish a day that's been kind of a bit iffy for me. So it's enabled me to let go of a lot of those things that I was struggling with. And I'm just left with a lovely, warm feeling.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a very strange moment of being reminded of a poem and thinking, is it in the front of this book? And it's just one sentence that helps me see that distinction between seeking and, I've forgotten the word, but allowing.
Longing.
Longing, thank you. Which is, what is the new horizon in you that wants to be seen? Something about allowing presence or whatever it is to come through rather than looking for it.
Yeah.
And I feel that the atmosphere here today has been very allowing of what comes through, which for me also includes extreme tiredness. So I've had a bit of both. And maybe my tiredness has left me more open in some strange way to the horizon, which I haven't quite understood yet.